My biggest advice to getting into OT school is what's up, homies? You probably hated my spoiler, but I'm gonna really briefly explain OT. If you want a more in-depth definition of occupational therapy, I can definitely make another video in more specifics, but this video is going to be entirely on how to get into OT school. So you should probably already have a general awareness of what OT is. OT is the therapeutic rehabilitation of everyday activities, of meaningful activities. So this could be anything from cooking to driving to bathing. It's literally any activity you do in your life. OT school is hard to get into. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is becoming more and more competitive because the profession itself is becoming more and more common. Fortunately, we have more programs being implemented across the nation, so that's a good thing. This is my advice for getting into OT school. I'm currently a second year in OT school. I'm actually about to start my last semester of classes, which is really exciting. I'm going to briefly explain my admissions process. I applied to one school on the OT cast. I had other backup schools just in case if I didn't get into the school, but this was like my number one school I wanted to go. So I applied, and then a month after I applied, I got an interview request. Then I was interviewed, and then I got an email 2 days after my interview saying that I have been accepted. So it was a very quick process, and I'm very fortunate to be able to have such a quick process, and not everyone does, and that is okay. I hope my tips are helpful and they're strategic, and they kind of help you prepare for what to expect, what you can do to kind of boost up your resume and your profile as a whole, and 3, just kind of make you feel more comfortable about the process. I know applying to grad school is super stressful. I am with you. I totally understand, but at the same time, you have to try to have a sense of confidence and clarity throughout this process, or it will make you feel like you can't do it, which you can, and you will be an OT. As always, I'm Jess, and welcome to my channel. I'm new to the YouTube. Did I just say the YouTube? Just disregard that. Appreciate a like and comment on this video so I know to make more videos like this, and subscribe to get more fun videos every week. Follow my Instagram to keep up with updates. My first piece of advice that I think a lot of people disregard or don't even think about till maybe junior, senior year of college is to make professional connections with adults. Talk to your professors, to talk to a volunteer coordinator, to talk to someone you're doing research with. I started in my freshman year. Whether you're going into undergrad knowing you want to do OT kind of like me, or you're taking a less traditional path of OTing, maybe you're looking at OT maybe your junior or senior year, or you haven't been in college for a while, it is never too late to make those connections with adults. I know it can be a little uncomfortable sometimes, but just by introducing yourself and saying who you are and what you're interested in, aka OT, that can really spark a connection with adults. You're gonna want these people to write you letters of rec. Pretty sure every OT school requires a letter of rec, and mine required 3. Okay, so take that into account that you need at least 2 to 3, sometimes 4 letters of rec. Most adults want to help you out. They want to see you succeed. And so you should stop by office hours, send an email, introduce yourself, go sit in the front of class. Like, I don't really like to sit in the front of class, but I remember one professor, I purposely sat in the front of class to make sure I could he could get to know me and he can put a name to the face, and I introduced myself after class, and then I eventually became involved in his research, and he became one of my letters of rec. You're gonna have to put in effort to make these connections, but it is all well worth it because you will probably end up with your letters of rec that you need to even apply to the program. My second advice, leadership positions look really great on a resume. It shows that you take initiative, that you're involved, and that you overall can lead, and that is an important component of being an OT, and a lot of admissions look into that. And so I know it's not always a feasible thing, especially for people who are more introverted. I understand that. Like, I went into college not being as outgoing as I am now, so that was something that worried me when people would tell me, oh, you should get a leadership position. But I'm telling you, whatever org it is, it could be as small as 5 people. If you have some type of leadership position, you don't have to be president, you don't have to be vice president, but if you're like a secretary or communication chair, please volunteer for that, because that looks amazing on a resume, and you can talk about that in your interview, and it will make you shine. My third third advice is volunteer. Now, some schools require volunteer hours already, but if your school doesn't, volunteer. Just volunteer, because it looks really good. I mean, servant leadership, servitude is one of the most important components of being an OT, and so it just looks good. When you volunteer, make sure to volunteer in a variety of settings. So let's say you're dead set on peds and you just volunteered in pediatric related volunteer orgs like adaptive gymnastics, like a therapeutic writing center, et cetera, et cetera. You also want to make sure you get some volunteering experience in adult settings, but you want to make sure that you come off as a comprehensive applicant. What that means is that you are volunteering in settings of different populations, different demographics, because that shows that you're open-minded. My fourth advice is kind of vague. Bear with me. It's to do something outside the box. Now, what I mean by that is to do something that is a little different. So for me, I did research. Now, research is very common, but just doing something that's a little bit beyond measure and beyond expectations that looks really good. So I did research for a semester with my professor who I got the letter rec from. Okay, now you don't have to feel confined to do research. You can join a service org, you can lead a service trip, you could do something OT related with your pre-OT group, something that kind of like makes you different from the other applicants, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying you have to go cure like a disease or something. I'm saying do something that's a little different. Fifth advice, and it's the biggest advice I give to you applying to OT school, is to make sure you shadow a variety of settings, okay? That is one of the biggest reasons people do not get into OT school. It is a story I've heard a lot. I, for example, know someone who would only shadow pediatric settings because she was dead set on peds. She knew she wanted to do peds. And she eventually didn't get accepted because she had a lack of variety in her settings. And so she shadowed a hands setting, and she shadowed a geriatric setting at a skilled nursing facility. And then she looked more comprehensive. Remember that image of a comprehensive applicant. They want to see that you've tried both and that you are open-minded. I'm pretty sure every OT school requires a minimum shadow hours. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 10. Please go beyond that. Now, I'm not saying you need 100 hours. I'm saying please go at least, I would say probably 10 to 15 above that. So my school, for example, required, I believe, 20 hours and I got 45. So no, I didn't get 100 hours. Some people I knew got like 100, 150 hours. They worked at the clinic. They just got so much experience. Now, I didn't have that. I got about 45 hours and I was a little worried about that. But you just need enough hours to be able to talk about it during an interview. You need to be able to elaborate it and kind of highlight your experiences. That's all you really need shadowing wise, is you need to be able to talk about it, articulate it, learn from it. So don't be stressed that you don't have 150 hours of shadowing. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for a comprehensive experience to get the variety of settings, to get at least 10 to 15 above the minimum setting. So if they're requiring 30, I would get about 45, 50. If they're requiring 20, I would get at least about 35. Let me just say that a lot of people do not get into OT school the first try. I fortunately was able to, and I am aware that that is not as common. If you don't get into OT school the first try, please do not be discouraged. I know it is the most annoying process. It is the longest process. It took me so long to make sure my application had all the necessary components. I hope that this gave you some strategic tips on how to look great as a candidate for OT school. Like I said, OT school is really competitive, so if you don't get in on your first try, please do not feel discouraged. Please do not give up. If this is your dream, you will make it happen. Unfortunately, there are a lot of OT programs in the US, and so if you don't get in on your first try, there are a ton of other schools to apply to. I do want to say, make sure you have backups. Make sure you have at least about 3 to 4 OT schools you're looking at and applying to on OTCast. Now, I had about 3 and I got into my first, okay? But I would have taken those OT schools and applied to them if I wouldn't have gotten in. So please make sure you have backups. Don't just think you're gonna get into one, because again, it's very competitive. So if you guys want more OT related advice on how to rock your interview, how to make your OT cast really stand out, let me know and I will I will deliver. Passion is really the key ingredient to getting into OT school. If you show that through your resume and your interview, you will get in, no doubt, and you will become an OT. You Gucci.